Coin tosses.
Okay, at this point, there's no more coins to toss because, okay, so now Carrie is out.
Carrie is Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you. Okay, so we still don't have enough.
Why don't you cross off the old ones? It's easier to read.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so with 37, she would still need five more votes. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can decide right now to just eliminate the people who got 2 votes and allocate those votes. Or we can do another coin toss.
Why would you do multiple people at the same time and you didn't do that in the first round?
What
Yeah,
does the
that's
right
what I
choice
think.
person think? Because you're more familiar with this.
Again, this is really, I would say, we've been doing the coin toss, so it's probably more consistent.
Okay.
I mean, just for legitimacy, why would you switch methods
Exactly.
after
Exactly.
first round and second?
You wouldn't,
Right. So
you would determine what you're doing and then do it the whole way. But since we're figuring out what we're doing at this point, the idea is like we still don't know what the best method
You
is.
have to actually find their specific ballot and then
They,
you see
they
what's
cut
up.
off a whole bunch of unviables before they start doing that.
I see, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the logistics when we have a massive election, how that would play out.
Normally it's just so you'll have a piece ballot.
With their choices, all identified. So
And they're gonna run.
Just for posterity.
yeah, I just want to make sure the whole point for me is to figure out how verifiable it is.
All right, all right, Rick, somebody please observe the coin toss. Ready?
So retoss or?
No, okay, we kind of lost that.
Plus, you're going to want to make recommendations for how to implement this, right, in the future.
Right.
And there could be
Buttigieg's out.
Buttigieg.
Out.
So Buttigieg, both go to Warren.
Okay.
You have your own process
Okay.
identified as the best.
And Klobuchar.
Klobuchar is now out.
One goes to Harris.
Or you have it kind of loose to adaptive.
Paris.
Paris, not Warren.
And one goes to Warren.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Where's Harris?
Or is it kind of flexible? It's flexible. I see.
Okay, so so we've eliminated these candidates. I'm going to go ahead and just cross them out because, okay, and Williams. No, we haven't got rid of Inslee. Sorry. Okay, so
Biden.
so now we eliminate Biden, and my guess is that Biden will put
Warren over.
Warren over the top, but
Let's
Biden. Number 2 is Harris.
Harris,
Which one's Harris?
one Harris.
This one?
Yes.
Biden, number 2 is Harris. And Biden, number 2 is Buttigieg. So he's no longer in.
So you go to number 3.
Number 3, Beto.
Out next.
He's not in. So 4, Kamala. So Harris. So they all went to Harris.
Interesting.
That all makes sense. They're moderate
It
candidates.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And
So
on
your
that ballot,
second
if
would be
you
a
could do me a
moderate.
favor.
So those two would be
Mark
splitting votes in a
That
plurality.
Harris.
Yeah.
Mark Harris, please. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
So Inslee is
I
next.
could do that on each of those. Oh, you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yes, Inslee is next.
Okay, so at this point, this is interesting because we've already eliminated more. Okay, so the next to eliminate would be Inslee.
So if you learn a lot about people's preferences, there was
There's
ranked choice
Inslee
breakdown.
one.
Oh, so Booker went to Inslee. Okay.
Surveys.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, yeah. Now
Yeah,
it's
now
So-
it's complicated.
So, coming again?
You're looking for
Their second choice.
their second or third choice in some cases.
Yeah, just
Right.
the
Yeah,
next
so
choice.
Inslee, so that goes to Warren.
Warren, okay.
This one goes to Castro,
Out next.
Yeah, next.
Warren,
Okay. That's 2 for Warren.
and then Inslee goes to Cory Booker,
Who's out.
so then to Warren,
Okay, that's 2 for Warren.
and then Warren,
4.
and then Buttigieg,
Out.
Tulsi Gabbard,
Oh, wait a minute.
Andrew
wait a minute,
Yang.
Wait a
Tulsi
minute.
Gabbard,
Wait
Tulsi
a minute.
Gabbard.
Wait a minute. He wanted Inslee as number 1. His 2 is Bernie, not Elizabeth.
Oh,
Thank you, okay.
Oh, sorry, yes, good
You
for
went to
verifying.
3 because the 2 was already out.
Okay, so Gabbard now has a vote. Keep
Yeah.
that in mind, okay?
And you gave Bernie an extra
And
vote?
and interestingly, she wasn't
Because
already eliminated.
That's right.
Because she didn't
Why
have
wasn't-
any votes.
But
didn't get
she
any
really
votes, so
is
she's
eliminated.
eliminated.
Okay, because she got
Shouldn't-
0 votes, she was eliminated.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
So then this one went from
and anyway, that one
Inslee
went to Biden
Buttigieg,
or
to
Bernie.
Gabbard, to Yang, to Biden. So this one doesn't get nobody gets a vote.
that's-
Oh, so that's an exhausted ballot.
It's an
So
exhaustive
it's our
ballot.
first exhaustive ballot.
So
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay, so we have one exhaustive.
Or can you put it on whatever round we're
This is
on?
one.
Oh, okay.
We have, okay, so one exhaustive ballot, one Bernie Sanders, and 3
Let
Warren.
me see that other page too.
Yeah. So,
Camera. Thanks.
And an exhaustive ballot still counts in the total when you do the other stuff, right? When you get
Total
the,
how many?
what it takes to win. Right.
Yeah.
okay, so we have one exhausted, so right now we
Well-
have one exhausted. Inslee was eliminated. 11 Harris, 28 Bernie, 43 Warren.
83.
Okay. So, that took a while.
It was revealing,
But
though,
it's
which was
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there
Learn
things were gleaned from it
Yeah.
about people's thought processes on candidates, which was nice.
So this is the final.
And then
Final, yeah, because it was over the threshold.
and then
Do you believe that this reflects kind of our central committee for the most part, that this would probably be about the right preference? What do you think, Sam?
For the
Well,
farmers,
apparently-
We didn't tell people to necessarily vote with their. We just told people vote. We didn't say like this is going to be reflective of how you view. So make sure you're
Right, no, and
accurate
like
in your
Travis was
voting.
saying, this doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Well, we would assume they were, but you know.
Yeah,
It's,
so you're definitely making an assumption.
There were some
was
people
real.
who probably didn't necessarily put down their
Yeah.
real choice.
It's informative,
I have a
but
feeling
certainly
that,
not.
yeah,
It's pretty.
Yeah.
And-
I was
and
for it.
what'll be interesting is how many people scored Warren and Bernie both 5s with star voting, or how many gave them 5 4s, or yeah,
Do you want these files kept?
or how many people gave like really
Okay,
strongly preferred one over the
So
other.
do you want these
Yeah.
files kind of so you
That
can
would
look
be
at
really
them?
helpful.
So so one thing we'll do.
Warren as the second one, but people voted their
No,
tendencies.
I knew Warren was gonna be first.
Well, I mean, and when we get to second and third, people didn't necessarily go with her because they were more moderate, and they went with another
I'm
moderate.
I don't
really
remember.
curious to see.
I would describe
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Well, I don't know necessarily, but I know the way I would describe it is this, and really
Well, I could
star
see a
voting will do this too,
situation where
is it allows people to see
Some of those
the
smaller,
kind of the
they have a
network
moderate
of
like
preferences,
Biden.
because you're able
So
to
they
see
go,
like,
oh, the rest of them
oh,
are moderate,
people
and then
who
ninth is Warren,
like
and
clustering,
Right,
where,
moderate, middle, yeah.
yeah, so it's like, oh, you see when people eliminated Inslee, a lot of them went Warren, and not a lot of them went Bernie in this.
Or came in the
Kamala
same
Harris
way,
got
didn't we?
a lot of
Or,
them.
all the
Biden.
Biden people went to Kamala Harris with it. when he-
Well, I was just thinking, well, what if, let's say you're a moderate, and you do a Biden, and then your next is Harris, and then your next is Booker, blah, blah, blah. But they're all eliminated, and so your ninth is Warren, and you wind up voting for Warren. And you
Well, it's
may
good,
not
yeah.
have wanted to.
Well, it's good if none of the others are.
I mean, it's better than not getting a vote at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then maybe you're like, well, I really prefer Warren
Yeah,
over
but
Bernie.
that's just of
Right,
those
right.
last ones. We could look
You
at
get to make that choice.
right.
we could look at the Warren ones.
At least
just-
your vote ultimately does make a difference.
He's the second choice on that
Which
one.
that's I think
Second choice on that
But
one.
for the rest of them,
yeah.
Kamala. I mean, that'd just be interesting just to see how people are thinking, right?
It's interesting though, the people who.
Yeah, it looked to me like most of the top 2 on most of the ballots were Sanders and Burke.
put up the other
Warren, yeah.
And they were
Elizabeth.
pretty-
And a lot of
Harris.
these technical difficulties that we have, a computer's gonna just sit right through.
Warren Sanders.
Although
Warren
ranked choice
Sanders,
voting, what's the
Warren
deal with
Harris.
computer tabulation these days? Because I know it's
Warren
improved in
Harris.
the last year or two.
Yeah, there's
Well,
actually
what I'm saying
some,
is
so FairVote has
for the
its
ones that were
own
eliminated,
system that we're developing,
Yeah.
that's in
it could have
beta.
been the second choice.
It's like rank.it.
Yeah.
But then
No, just,
in Washington, we're using a program called OpaVote. And I think they actually have they have
I guess
star
what I'm
voting
saying
or an
They have
approval.
score, and we're working with them to add star, hopefully.
Yes. And then there's a bunch of people who have just created their own like open source version. I know that was a project in Minneapolis when they were running into
Just at a quick
problems
glance,
with
it
online
looked like it's
calculation.
Warren
And
Harris
so
and
I have a preferred
Without looking
kind of
at
like just
all of
quick
them.
JavaScript system through GitHub.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get started.
That's what I tend to use. But
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
I
do
agree
Star
that
next, but before we
it's
do
in
that, I
development,
wanna,
like
so
we'll
I wanna
start to
capture
make
some
risk limiting
impressions.
audits for these type of
Because
systems,
I'm
but
only
it's
hearing
not
part of
yet
the
out.
conversation.
And do you know anything about that,
So-
like for doing risk limiting audits that we're
So folks,
promoting?
if I could have your attention.
Or both of you?
Okay, so I'd like to capture some of our impressions and comments on the system, if that's okay. I've already written down some of the ones that I've had, which are that we need to keep track of where we are on each ballot if we're going to do this by hand, because I think we've already run into a problem where we had to go down to the third place after the first elimination, or after the first set of eliminations, and that could easily be a source of confusion for folks. If we're tabulating this by software, that's probably going to be less confusing as long as we transcribe the data correctly or have a system for reading the data that we trust, e.g. Scantron, something like that. Okay, we already had one exhaustive ballot, so that was unfortunate. Might need software, don't know. What do other people think?
Well, we definitely, whatever tabulation system, we want to cross-check it. We have to do risk limiting audits, verify one-to-one correspondence about cast of ballots tabulated. And one solution that has been done that I think might be adoptable for this type of voting is in is it Ohio? Forgot. One of the Midwest states, Wisconsin. A county clerk there takes all these and scans them, and then she has an overhead projector, and you have teams with clickers, and so we could. Then you do it again. You can cross-check that. You can all like zip through them. They can actually do like 1,500 ballots in an hour, and that seems like it would be a tool. But at the end of all that, you still have to do. Pull some of the ballots out and look and check and have a way to do that. There's a whole process with risk limiting audits where you have a assignment to the ballot so that you can pull out of the stack and make sure that it in fact matches what the ballot image was. But the beauty of that is you don't have to do that many. You can do a very, very small sampling for a very large election. So I think across, use the best that we have with technology, tabulation, because it's so complicated. And then we could do some kind of cross-check with maybe with teams with the ballot images. And then on top of that, one more layer, just a few that we need to check one-to-one. So that's my thought on it, because...
Well, and when you're
And
commenting...
define your method of eliminating at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that, just because we're like on, say, the fourth round does not mean you go to the fourth person that they put on their ballot. There could be a second or a third.
Right.
You need to be aware of that.
So some people's second choice and third choices got counted, but not everyone's.
Right.
And then the ties is a big issue where you're, when you have lots of rounds, that you could have ties in every round, so that increases the likelihood of ties.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen as much in huge elections, but it happens a lot in demos, from what I've seen.
Does it matter if you're tied? Are we counting ties based on like at this stage the total amount is tied, or does it matter if like okay, this person was 8's first choice and it was 8-9, or was 8 first choices and 1 second, and this person was 9 third place choices. At the end, does it matter what the actual preference category breakdowns are within the total, or do you just say, oh, they're both tied, and then now you're just counting them evenly as like a tied category that you flip a coin on?
Does the star vote kind of takes that into account a little bit? Doesn't it?
But we're not in star. We're talking about.
I know, but
So,
versus this.
well, one of the thing that happened with Burlington, Vermont, where it was repealed, is that they counted all the ballots, they found a winner, and then they went back and did the metadata, and they found that the candidate who was preferred over all other candidates had lost the election. And that's because they count some people's second choices and not everybody's. And so...
And that's with Star?
And no, that was with ranked choice voting.
Oh.
And then they repealed it You know, debatable whether that was the reason, or also they had a candidate scandal where the mayor who got elected was, I forget what he did, but it was scandalous.
Yeah, in most situations I've heard, they treat it as each round is distinct and unique, and they normally don't try to calculate how many second or third place votes, you know, try to create a score of some sort.
Because that could potentially be something that would be used, though, it makes it complicated as part of your tie-breaking mechanism beyond just a coin flip. Like, what's actually the preferred, as like a first step calculation if you're going to break a tie, you know, if you're trying to care about preference.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing, did anyone like check how long that took us from when we started to when we finished?
I think it did take significantly longer, didn't it?
Well, longer than Plurality.
Yeah.
Anything will, but I don't know if we wrote down how long, or if that's relevant since we're beginners.
Yeah.
It might not be relevant because we're beginners, but
Yeah.
it is interesting because we spent a long time figuring out just a coin toss thing. If that we would have just decided that in the beginning, I think
Yeah.
we would have been faster.
I mean, it's definitely going to be longer
Yeah.
than.
And
And
if-
if you figure out a good system of
Yeah.
doing it an electronic system, that's going to speed things up, obviously.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'd be fun to do a test with the clickers, and because I think that really will prove to a lot of people that this is more practical to
Yeah.
do the checks.
And then on the auditability question, I think star voting or ranked choice, if we're counting the ballots for like just MultCo Dems, then that's a straightforward auditing
Yeah,
process.
that's small. I'm thinking.
But if you're summing statewide results to do, you know, a statewide election where you've got ballots from each
Right.
CD or each county or whatever,
county.
then you have to get all the ballots together before you can know who to eliminate
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And you have to do all that in a central location, either electronically in an electronic meeting or else physically centrally.
Yeah. For electronics, fairly straightforward. Yeah, but that would be difficult for.
Well, in Oregon, we already do it county centralized tabulation anyway, so that's not an issue for Oregon, but I think other states.
Each county does their own, right? And
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
sum them. So
Yeah,
that's
and then
so
they
that
could-
wouldn't work with ranked choice.
For a statewide election.
Yeah,
But for county elections.
Yeah, for county it's the same.
But yeah, for a statewide election, or for like a district-wide election where the district covers multiple counties, we definitely have to have all the votes tabulated together from all the different precincts and counties and so on before we move forward.
And then that's where
Okay, that's a problem.
that security thing comes in of
Yeah.
who's driving the ballots there,
If
Well,
you know, or
well, it
are we photographing them all, or
Yeah.
what are we doing?
It's huge.
becomes huge.
Yeah.
And that's
If
something
you're
the
doing
Secretary
electronic
of
study,
State
you
would have
just
to
have
work
an
out.
ID number. And then
Yeah,
you
no,
have
we
like
work
what
it
the
out.
rank
I'm
is
until
of
the
that
Secretary
number.
of State.
Well, we
Right,
can,
so each ballot
we can work
would
it
just
out
be
from
like this
multiple
ballot,
counties.
this is the
Yeah,
rank.
Yeah,
and
we
just
have
do
to think
electronic signature
statewide and
essentially.
have a
You
good
could do individual county
plan,
counts,
otherwise we're
send
gonna
that
get
data.
more crap.
If you're trying to do a physical
Well,
tally,
yeah,
of
except
it,
for
then
so-
it becomes an issue. But
Yeah,
for
you
data,
have-
that's not a big deal.
You have to
What
send the
system
whole
you set
ballot
up?
list.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's thousands of ballots,
Yeah.
that list would be
I
thousands
see.
of
Yeah, but
ballots
it's
long.
literally just
Within
text
the
thing.
Multnomah
It's
Democrats,
JSON.
if there's
Dot,
other
like it's,
problems, you would identify those.
you know, it's kilobytes. It's not a huge issue.
Well, and I think the other thing is that while we're doing this in the locale or agency of Multnomah County Democrats, actually isn't this being a test being done for DPO?
Right, I think, right, there's a lot,
So
that's
we
a
do,
thing.
we
that-
do need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being looked at in both scenarios, right?
Could be
Whatever
ideal, whatever
presidentially,
Multnomah
statewide.
does, it would be an
countywide.
example for the DPO and everybody, so that's my perspective. Is
Yeah.
that this is just a great opportunity.
Let's count those. Let's count the star vote.
Okay.
Now, how are we
Yeah.
gonna count those? You gotta give every candidate 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or something?
Give
So
all candidates.
the
five,
way
you know?
that
No, I mean when we count.
When we count.
Oh, okay.
the way that we've done it in the past is we've laid out these ballot sheets, and I don't know if somebody else wants to
Oh, yeah, I
film.
want to get Lisa, I want to.
I need to use the restroom.